Okay, I will call the March 12th meeting of the McHenry County Committee of the Whole Board to order. I know I don't look like Mike. He's got some other issues today. Well, I hope it's just today. At any rate, could we have a Pledge of Allegiance first? Dr. Sagar is going to lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Pamela Altoff. Present. Carolyn Campbell. Here. John Collins.
Here.
Terry Greeno. Eric Hendricks. Carl Kaminsky.
Present.
James Kearns.
Here.
Dina Krieger.
Here.
Matthew Kunkel.
Here.
Brian Sager.
Here.
Michael Shorten.
Here.
Michael Scala. Larry Smith.
Here.
Patrick Sullivan.
Here.
Paul Thomas.
Here.
Gloria Van Hoff.
Present.
Tracy Von Bergen.
Here.
Vice Chairman Gaudemuller.
Here. We have a quorum. I guess under the new procedure, I understand that Mr. Collins would like to join us. I heard him say he was here. Can you tell us the reason why you're away?
I'm traveling on business today.
Can I have a motion to approve his attendance? By Pam, seconded by Dr. Sagar. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Welcome aboard, John.
Thank you.
In terms of chairperson's comments, I only have one well, there's a couple. First off is you should remember that next Tuesday is not our board meeting. Next Wednesday is our board meeting, which is unusual for us, but we're not having a board meeting on Tuesday because of the election day. The second item is that Wednesday, or excuse me, 2 days ago now, and it has been sent to you in your emails, the third district appellate court, we're in the second, but it's binding on us until somebody in the second says otherwise, came down with a ruling concerning Grundy County and solar farms. If you haven't read it, you should take a look at it. The ruling in essence says that the LaSalle factors do not count. They are not something we can consider. We are only allowed to consider the things that were put in the new state statute. To give you an idea, when solar farms, and they included, by the way, wind turbines. So if somebody wants to put a wind turbine up, they fall under the same practicalities. The regulations, by my reading of it, and the state's attorney's office, I'm sure will be coming to talk to us about it in the near future. We get to talk about the height of a solar panel not being higher than 20 feet. We get to talk about the fact that that from a non-participating property, there can be a 50-foot setback. From a road, it's a 50-foot setback. And from the neighboring house that's not participating, it's a 150-foot setback. Those are now the standards if you have an agricultural or industrial zone property. That's what the appellate court's telling us. For whatever it's worth, the one in LaSalle County, if you used to Route 47, they were concerned that the airport that's just north of Morris is going to be impacted by it. Doesn't matter. They were concerned about the future development in Grundy County about, and in fact, the town of Morris and 2 other towns filed amicus briefs saying, why they didn't want it and actually said, don't approve it. All of that was thrown out. So the state legislature has mandated that these are going to go in, and there's not a whole lot we have to say about it. Just to get you more concerned, the governor's State of the Union speech 2 weeks ago made a comment that they were going to change single-family zoning, that any residential zoning that has 2,500 square feet would be allowed a house. McHenry County's impact, if you could to give you an idea, at 2,500 square feet, if in fact that was approved, It would mean that every 1 acre of single-family housing in McHenry County would be allowed 16 to 17 homes if you could find a way to deal with the septic and the well. It's truly astounding. It means that you could put 17,000 homes up on a 1,000 acre parcel. I happen to know, I didn't zone it, but I know exactly where it's at, right down by the toll road. I don't know how you're going to solve those other problems, but that is what they're proposing, that you will not have single-family zoning in Illinois anymore. Everybody will have zoning that allows every 2,500 square feet that's residential to have an extra house. So your 10,000 square foot home in Crystal Lake is now a 4-flat. Anyhow, we'll see if that gets through Springfield, but this solar farm did too. Any rate, that's all the comments that I have as chairman today. I'm not any more happy about it than I think you guys would be. Member comments. Ms. Altoff, let me, go ahead.
I apologize because I have a few. Just to bring the board up to snuff, the Illinois, our McHenry County Department of Public Health received a $350,000 Strengthening Illinois Public Health Administrative Grant back in 2023. We were notified in February that that grant had been withdrawn, that there was no longer any funding for that. We received it kind of in a one lump sum, and then we asked for reimbursement. Just want you to know the status. I don't have numbers yet, but there was a lawsuit filed and a TRO was put into place, a temporary restraining order, so the grant continues until March 12th. We should have more information, but again, as these things occur, I want you to be aware of where that money is and how that's going to affect potentially our budget. Also wanted to let you know that the Monarch battery proposal that is for portions of Prairie Grove and McHenry County did host a webinar last night. They now will be available, that information will be available on a Monarch website. If you are interested, frequently asked questions, things of that nature, you can go on their website and you can see all of the information. So those of us who are concerned about that proposal, obviously, their preference, just so you all know, is to annex the entire project to the village of Prairie Grove. But as it stands now, a large portion of that project would fall within the McHenry County boundaries. And lastly, the good news is that the NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, awarded their Vision of Hope Awards, and one of our court clinicians, Sarah Rausch, was a recipient, and our VAC, the Veterans Assistance Commission, also received the honor. So I'd like to just say congratulations to those folk. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sagar?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just kind of clarification with regards to the Vice Chair's commentary on the court action. You did indicate that if, in fact, under the law, it is agricultural or industrially zoned, right? Yes. It does not preclude the county from maintaining a current zoning designation, which is not industrial or agriculture, in an effort to try to manage, if you will, the solar farm designation.
I agree. If it's currently not zoned one of those two things, the LaSalle factors would still apply. But if it is currently zoned agricultural or industrial, the LaSalle factors are no longer something that we're allowed to consider.
Thank you.
I see no other member comments. John Collins, did you have anything?
I did not, sir. Thank you.
Public comment. I have one matter on here. Renee, sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name. Weigert or Weigert? Weigert. Thank you. Come on up. For clarity, you have 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind. At the end of that, that light's going to turn red, and we're going to be asking you to wrap it up.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. Wow, this board has a lot on their plate after all those comments. Good morning. My name is Renee Weigert. I'm here to represent the vast majority of residents who live in Johnsburg and the surrounding areas. I stood before you just 3 months ago commending you for your bold decision to vote against the proposed solar farm at Ringwood Road and Spring Grove Road. That decision showed leadership, and it showed that you are willing to take the action to protect this community. Today, I stand before you again to address the next challenge, litigation. That piece of paper, that email notification, that news article that quickly spread through the community. First, let me say this clearly. It was not unexpected. Any attorney representing their client would likely take that same step. That's part of the process. But what matters now is how you respond. Litigation should not be feared. This is opportunity. Your opportunity to show, with evidence, why location matters. Your opportunity to demonstrate that placing one large industrial solar project in one wrong location can have real devastating consequences for the people who live there. And make no mistake, eyes are all watching. The people of McHenry County, the farmers who feed our region, the elders who have protected this land for generations, as well as the surrounding counties who are looking to see how leadership acts when law meets human risk. Laws are important, they give guidance, but laws are written by people, and people are not perfect. Mistakes happen. Illinois claims to protect clean water, public safety, wildlife, and farmland. Yet, state mandates push counties to approve projects that put all of that at risk. That is clear contradiction. Board members, collect the evidence, stand strong, and let every citizen, every community, every state official see that McHenry County leads with courage and will fight for humanity. Because the world is watching and history will judge every decision you make. We, the people, respect you, we honor you, and we have faith in you. You got this. Thank you.
Do you have a pen handy?
Do I have a pen?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Do you need a pen?
That's what we're stuck with.
Thank you. We're not stuck. It's our
Well,
opportunity.
read through it, you'll see what the appellate court just decided. That, what I just gave her was a copy of the case that you have on your, in your email last night. With that, we get to go on to more fun things. I have no other public comment from anybody, or at least no one else has signed in. The next item up is the Division of Transportation Township Bridge Program discussion. Mr. Kropalski, you have the mic.
Right.
Yep, right or left if you want to go back. Introduce you guys.
If you want to, sure, go ahead.
Okay, introducing Joe and the gang, but also to let you know, there's a couple of the road commissioners will be coming up here to represent the road commissioners throughout the county. And then also a couple other ones right after them, and we're gonna keep it short, to address the safety issues and the requirements of this giant farm machinery going over some of these bridges too. So just to understand, for our entire board can understand what's happening here in the county and the future of this program. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, Chairman Kearns, and good morning, everybody, department heads and members of the public. As Chairman Kearns indicated, my name is Joe Kropalski. I'm the county engineer and director of transportation for the Division of Transportation. Historically, the Division of Transportation under then County Engineer Jim Rako, who those of you that have been around long enough, served for 24 years, operated underneath a policy of funding 100% of all engineering, land acquisition, and construction from the County Bridge Fund and federal funds for bridges and large culverts on road district roadways. While in the past, the county has had sufficient funding for such projects, growth, larger project scopes, environmental costs,
and increasing construction costs have placed an ever-increasing burden on the bridge fund. Aging township bridges are near a tipping point as repair and reconstruction costs continue to skyrocket. Our brief presentation today will cover the following. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the program, discuss what bridge project costs, how they have gone up over the years, township bridge locations and sufficiency rating. That'll show you all the different status of the structures. Projects included, and maybe more important, projects that are not included in the 5-year transportation program. Federal funding, bridge and matching fund levies, and then we will welcome up, as Chairman Kearns mentioned, road commissioners. Jim Condon, I believe, will be doing their presentation that was given at the Transportation Committee on what steps they are taking. And then finally, discussion amongst you all as county board members on how you would like to see this program move forward. Next slide, please. You already did. Good, thank you. First, for all the benefit of those that may be watching home and board members, it's important to understand how maintenance responsibility works in the transportation sector. State and local governments are each assigned roadway jurisdictions or operations and maintenance of the roadways responsibility over all public roads and bridges in a given geographic area. That geographic area is the state of Illinois, and that not just McHenry County. So, as you may know, you see IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation. Roads underneath their jurisdictions are usually U.S. routes, U.S. Route 14, ones with Illinois designations, Illinois 47, 30, 31, 176. Those roadways are their responsibilities to take care of the roadways and the bridges. Even if they go through a municipality, and that, it is still underneath the jurisdiction of the state of Illinois. The county is responsible for our bridges and roadways, Raco, Randall Road, Kishwaukee. There's a lot of roadways that are underneath the highway map that we give you. Our roads are shown in red, so if you ever need to know which ones are ours, they're right there. And then cities are responsible for their own bridges and townships for them. And that, just so you know, that everybody has a little piece of the pie. However, that's not how things have worked here in McHenry County historically. The county has treated township bridges as our own. Our staff has managed all phases of township projects, and the county tax levies, bridge and matching fund, have funded the local match. And we'll go into that a little bit more later on what the local match is. This relationship, I mentioned Jim Raco, but it actually started even before then, has been in place for about 60 years now. When agriculture was the dominant land use, and before the county experienced explosive post-war suburban population growth. We know the growth that we saw in the 90s in the southeast portion of this county. So with that, I will turn it over to Assistant County Engineer Darrell Koontz, who will cover the cost of bridges. Right?
Thank you, Joe. So as Joe was saying, post-war, 1950s and 60s, federal funding for bridges was a lot more plentiful. And a lot of these bridges were built around that time and in the decades past. And so what that happened was a boom in bridge building throughout that period of time. But decades later, these bridges are coming due for replacement, and the federal funding isn't necessarily there. If we look at how bridges are getting more expensive, we have a couple of items up here. Over the last 14 years, inflation has increased by roughly 43%. But in 2012, you can see what the phase 1 engineering or the design engineering costs were and construction. They've increased 3 times in that same period of time, well outpacing inflation. We looked back and took a look at a random bridge back in 1993. It cost only $172,000 to construct that structure, whereas right now they cost in the millions. Just to show an example of how inflation and the order of magnitude that the cost of these structures, both on the engineering, land acquisition, and construction side, have increased during the life of this program. So what we have up here is a map The dots and the colors are just representation of where we have structures on the township side. We do the inspections. Green is good, yellow is in poor condition or fair condition. The green dots are in good condition. So if we look a little bit closer at these, there's 81 structures in the township network. Roughly half are in good shape. The 35 in green, those are in good shape. Of the other 35, 11 are currently being worked on. Those are some of the worst in the red. But you can still see here, there's 14 left to go. And the yellow group, 21, that's the next phase that the way these bridges deteriorate, they're gonna be the next ones that are of concern. So for those who've been at Transportation Committee and we've talked about the next 30, 35 bridges that are in the wings, that's what we have right there. Those 11 that we're currently working on, those are gonna advance through the process the same as we have, but those are gonna end in the not too distant future. So as we look to prioritizing structures and where we need to be going, that 35 is the next wave that needs to be the primary focus as we advance. There's a lot of work that's been done so far with the county, but there's still quite a bit left to go. So next we'll have Scott Hennings, Assistant Transportation Director, talk about funding.
And we're going to use the word bridges and structures interchangeably in this presentation. You know, not all the dots shown here were bridges. Some of them are large culverts that are also classified as if they're a bridge, according to the federal system. But where are we now? So it's important to know that based on direction from the Transportation Committee and approval by the County Board, the DOT has not added a new township bridge to its 5-year program in over 3 years. Instead, we have prioritized county needs, such as our bridge replacement program, as well as various safety projects throughout the county on our system. As a reminder, our program is fiscally constrained, which means that expected revenues over the next 5 years match expected expenditures over the next 5 years. So there are no available funds sitting around to program towards township structures. Any direction by the county board to fund new township bridges in the program would require one of two things: either additional revenue to support that, or cuts to county transportation projects. The pause that Darrell mentioned on starting new township bridge projects will inevitably result in a period of time, probably in 2029 or 2030, where we're not going to do any township bridge construction projects at all. And just to give you a sense, in order to just keep up with all the need, we should be doing about 2 to 3 township bridge replacements every year. And there's going to be a period of two to 3 years where we're not going to be doing any. On the positive side, we did, and I should move ahead here, whoops. We did hire a bridge project manager back in 2024, which we appropriated $1.75 million over 5 years to help townships potentially develop their bridge program and get projects through the engineering phase, which we know takes time and expertise. And that will also free up county staff to focus on county priorities, and the bridge manager can help the townships on their priorities. So I like to talk about funding as a 3-legged stool, and this is always how it's been on the bridge, on the township bridge system. Really, it takes 3 different funding sources: federal, state, and local. And if one of those funding sources kind of goes away or is reduced, that can impact the success of bridge funding projects. As stated earlier, there's formula federal bridge money, which is available through IDOT, and historically, this has been very easy to access. The county would typically, in the past, just write a letter to IDOT saying, hey, we have this bridge, we're requesting $1.7 million in federal funding for the replacement of the bridge. And IDOT, almost without fail, would just say, sure, sounds good, we'll give you that in this year, go ahead and take care of it. However, lately, that's not the answer we've been getting from IDOT. We've been told that additional federal bridge money through the formula program is just not available. It's our understanding that IDOT had overprogrammed that funding source throughout the state, as well as Darrell had mentioned the cost going up. That's also a factor in why there's no federal formula bridge funds anymore, at least through 2028. We're hopeful that new funding could be coming sooner than that, but at this point, we've been told not until 2028 will there be new federal formula bridge funds. That said, there are competitive federal programs that IDOT offers or will be rolling out here soon that could help townships with their bridge replacement projects. The IDOT Special Bridge Fund and Local Off-System Bridge Program are 2 examples that could could assist townships with their smaller scale bridge projects. There's also state funding available to townships through the Township Bridge Program, sometimes referred to as TBP. That provides money for engineering, maintenance, and construction of township structures in McHenry County. And importantly, there's no local match with the state funds. With the federal money, you typically need to provide a 20% local match. The state funds, there is no local match for that. In 2023, the state of Illinois increased the size of the Township Bridge Program, increasing McHenry County's township share of revenue from $163,000 up to $656,000 per year. So that's what we have now in in state TBP, is about $650,000 per year for the townships on their system. When it comes to local funds, the county has, as Joe mentioned, the county has historically utilized two property tax levies on township bridge projects: the matching fund, which is Fund 206 for those that are following at home, and the bridge fund, which is Fund 207. The funding sources were typically used to match to match federal and state funds. However, as part of the 2026 budget, the county board reduced those two funds down to $10,000 per year, all but eliminating them for possible use in the future for township projects. Both the matching and the bridge levies are capped by state law at a maximum of 0.05% of EAV within McHenry County. So theoretically, if the board desired, those two funds could provide revenue in the neighborhood of roughly $10 million per year. That's the maximum revenue that those two funds could collectively generate if the county board chose to do so. So with that, I think we're concluding our presentation here, and we're going to be turning it over to the Township Highway Commissioners, specifically Mr. Condon, unless Joe wants to say anything else.
Yeah, just we welcome Mr. Condon here to the podium. Jim gave a very nice update on the steps that the road districts collectively in McHenry County have taken, and he'll give you that same presentation here. Also to note, Mr. Condon is a professional engineer also.
Professional engineer. That's why the fees are so high, or the rates are so high. Because we're worth it. Just kidding, obviously. First, I think we, to some degree, owe the county board an apology in the fact that you warned us about this 2 or 3 years ago, and we are finally getting our act together to participate in it. So, again, we apologize for the delay in that. The second thing I wanted to mention was all the things that we've done have been driven by Don Goad. He's the one behind it. He's the one who's really pushing, and he's the one who deserves a lot of credit for us coming up to speed and pushing this forward. So I may be standing here, but he's the person pushing it. So we've had several meetings, thanks to Don's leadership, to meet to figure out what the status is. Basically what you just saw here, we made sure that we came up to speed, because we never had to be up to speed necessarily before, because the staff had done it for us, the county staff, the McDock staff. So we had several meetings. We became familiar with the problem that really does exist, and it's pretty serious, and that the county was turning it over to us, that they did not have the funds or the staff to be the leaders of the programs moving forward. So as an association, we tried to put together a plan that we could work with the county moving forward. And our plan was first to verify that all the road districts wanted to work together as a group, and then determine which bridges would go first, and try to basically recreate what the county was doing previously already, reviewing the bridge evaluations, analysis, and deciding which ones would go next. Would we go as a group, or would we individually try to come to the county asking for assistance individually? At that point, Don made the suggestion that we send out a resolution to the highway commissioners to see who wants to work as a group and who wants to go alone. I can tell you that as of right now, all 17 townships have agreed to work together as a unified group to come back to you, work through it, and ask for assistance. With that being said, our next step was what program, how are we going to move forward? What we've decided is we've decided to create a bridge committee. Getting 17 highway commissioners in one room and trying to decide something isn't very effective. So we've created a committee of 5. We have those members established. There are 5 highway commissioners, obviously, with goals of trying to receive the information or look at the bridges that are critical, evaluate which ones are the most critical, and then move those forward into the phase 1, the phase 2, and eventually the phase 3. And to be honest with you, we're really depending a lot, we will hopefully be depending a lot on the McDOT staff in that they have the experience to really help us establish which bridge has to be next, which ones. So we would hope that McDOT will continue to assist us. And I'm sure you will. They can't get away from us. So the first step is to form a committee, evaluate, and then receive information from the different townships on the critical bridges, and then decide which one goes next, okay? What the pecking order for the bridge replacement would be. And that evaluation considers many things. Are there quick fix type of things that can be done, similar to what was done on the Johnsburg Bridge by Riverside Drive, just outside of Johnsburg Road Bridge, where you didn't have to do a full replacement, and it was quick and it was cheap. Can it be eliminated? Another thing that we'll be looking at is, are those roads, how much traffic is really on that road, and should we really be spending multi-million dollars on a road that has 25 cars going over it a day? Or can we actually eliminate that crossing and save that money instead? I think, Darrell, you had mentioned that would be like a $100,000 cost compared to the $3 to $5 million bridge type of cost. So we'll be looking at that. And then the worst case scenario is we have to put in a new bridge. And that's where we go through the phase 1, the phase 2, and the phase 3. So we'll try to put that in an order for the association. Then that committee of 5 will present that recommendation, those recommendations, to the whole group of the association, and hopefully come up with an agreement of which bridges we're going to move forward with. Once we know which bridges are going forward with, there was a mention of funding, and the funding that's available to us right now through McDOT is the $565,000 a year. What that really amounts to is being able to do one phase 1 study for bridges that we are going to replace, and one phase 2 study. I think it was $150,000 and $300,000 or so in fees, roughly. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but that's about what we're going to be able to accomplish with that. So we'll basically be moving 2 bridges a year through the system, hopefully, one through at the phase 1 stage and one at the phase 2 stage. And then once you get to phase 2, well, we're going to start scratching our heads and hoping that bridge funding comes back, because that's where the money comes in. That's where the millions of dollars come in. And we'll be looking for support from both the county and the McDOT staff to direct us as to where to go to request those funds. So that's pretty much the outline. The last thing we want to do is make sure a lot of these bridges are rural bridges. For instance, McHenry Township has a pretty good budget, but we only have 2 bridges, and our bridges are both in good condition. The issues that are really difficult is when you get to the rural community, the townships, the ones to the north and west and northwest. They're the ones that have the smaller annual budgets, and there's no way they would ever be able to replace a bridge or participate significantly. But what we do want to do is make sure that we make them aware of every opportunity they have to find funding, and that's through additional taxes if necessary, because it's their townships that are being served, that they're doing the maximum that they can. We'll review that with both the county staff and their staff, and make sure that they're funding themselves as much as they can in order to cover these costs, to make sure that they're fully participating on that. So I think that's where we're at. Hopefully we can continue to help, and we're truly here to apologize again for waiting 2 or 3 years to get this rolling. We should have been doing it a couple of years ago. And second, to please make sure that we have the access that we need moving forward to the McDOT staff. And then 3, when we get to that phase 3, that you're there to assist us in any way you can to help us get the funding that we need to move those forward. So, and we're here, there's 5 of us here, highway commissioners. Actually, all of them would have come, but we didn't think we needed to overwhelm you with that. So we're glad to answer any questions, and again, we'll be moving forward like this, and that's it. That's all I got.
Any other question, any other presentation?
Yeah, we got 2 more speakers that want to come up. You guys want to come up?
And then I'll get to you, Pam.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. All right, good morning. My name is Thomas Linneman. I am the fire chief from the Hebron-Alden-Greenwood Fire Protection District. Our fire district covers 56 square miles that provides fire and EMS to all or parts of Hebron Township, Alden Township, and Greenwood Township. Weight restrictions affect our emergency response on a daily basis, and we aren't only the only fire district in our county that is affected by bridge restrictions. Without the county's continued support of the township bridge program, I fear that townships with the lack of funding will be forced to close bridges with no time frame for repairs. One example of how a bridge restriction affected our fire district is on January 26th of 2024. Our department was requested for a structure fire in a large barn structure on one of our local farms on Durkee Road. Our crews needed to respond using a detoured route due to the Johnson Road Bridge restriction, which, please note, that is actually in the county's transportation area. But we had to use a different route. That increased our response time from 7 minutes up to 12 minutes. We note that fire doubles in size every minute, and on this fire, we had an even more severe situation. The farmer has it for the grain dryer, an 18,000-gallon propane tank that was fully filled. The barn was a complete loss, and this is just an example, this is just one example of a disaster that could have been much worse. This event also could have been hampered even more without the support of this program that had already fixed the O'Brien Road Bridge, which is in Hebron Township, and the Thayer Road Bridge, which is right on the border of Greenwood and Hebron Township. Those had been fixed a year or so earlier, and that allowed us to use that as a detoured route. Currently, our ambulances can respond over those bridges, but when the township would have to close those bridges, it would increase our response time, affecting our response for EMS also. Our standard response time is 5.5 minutes is our goal to try to get on the scene of all emergency responses, and that is countywide for all the fire districts. Our larger rural response area already is challenged to do that because we have long distances. We got 56 square miles to cover from one fire station. This potentially could become a life and death matter on a fire scene or for a medical emergency that somebody might be incurring. We've seen a positive impact in the fire service from the bridges that have already received repairs and replacements from this program, which we greatly appreciate your guys' support for that. Bridges in my fire district include the Vanderkar Road Bridge and O'Brien Road Bridge that are in Hebron Township, the Allendale Road Bridge and Thayer Road Bridge that are on the border between Hebron and Thayer Road. Other bridges that are currently in process that actually is starting next week is another bridge on Allendale Road. We've got the Johnson Road Bridge that is greatly affecting our responses right now, and that's on the county road. And then we also have a large culvert that is affecting an area in Alden Township on Hebron Road, which makes we cannot cross that with our fire apparatus, and we actually have to go all the way to Alden and back, which if anybody goes from Hebron to Alden, it's a long, long stretch if somebody's house is on fire. But I'm not going to drive a fire truck across and risk that risk. I hope you can reconsider or help us support the townships to support funding for this vital program that will help keep our communities safer. So thank you very much for your time and considerations, and any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Well, don't go far. I'm sure there will be some questions, but I think you have one other
That is
person.
it for our presentation, so.
In that case, we'll take some
Ourselves
questions.
and the road commission, oh, I'm sorry. One more. He didn't come up here, so I didn't know if you were going to speak. Go ahead.
It's hard to follow that, but my name's Phil Walters. I live on the corner of Thayer and Johnson Road in Hebron Township. And it's hard to follow what Tom said, that it's a safety issue out there for us where we're at. We've been hampered by, we farm in the area, and it's hard to get this equipment around, and people aren't driving any better. And the bridges are essential to my business and the safety of the people in my community up there. We need your support to fix these. We'd like to do it on our own, but it's not going to happen. And what you guys have done, the Vanderkar Road Bridge, the O'Brien Road Bridge, it's all great. I think our bridge has been, the deck's been put on it once in the last 10 or 15 years, but we're driving larger equipment around further, and it's just that much harder to get it around these days because people just don't. So we need to have access to these farms and our business. Since my livelihood, I've been there 56 years, and the roads haven't been shut off like they have in the last 15. So thank you. Hope you can get our support, or get support from you guys, and thank you. All right.
Okay, we have a couple questions. Pam, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. So the money that you referenced from the former state program that trickled down to us, was that from the feds, or is that a state program?
It's federal, the federal funds, we call them federal formula bridge funds. So they're all STP federal funds that are sub-allocated to the state of Illinois. And then IDOT then further sub-allocates that down to local governments, including McHenry County, townships, cities. And that was the program I referenced, where it used to be very simple to get that funds. And now there just isn't the money that there was even 7, 8 years ago. It was much easier than it is today.
Well, let's be honest, money's tight everywhere, right? I mean, that's really the issue, is that no one has any extra dollars anymore. So other question is, I mean, obviously McHenry County and our townships can't be the only entities that are suffering from the lack of access to funds. Do you have a feel for what other townships in Illinois, as well as across maybe the country, are doing with regard to bridges?
Well, I can't speak to across the country, but what I can say is that, across the state of Illinois, obviously the townships don't have the funding sources that we do at the county or at the city level. So this is not unique to our townships. That's an important piece to note. I think elsewhere, though, I think bonding is used quite a bit more. The townships would bond for the large construction projects and then pay off that bond over a series of years. I think that is a solution that a lot of other townships utilize downstate and across the region. There are examples. We didn't get into it in our presentation, but there are examples of a county matching program where the township is in charge of their bridges, but the county comes in with the match to help the township's money go further. So that I know some counties do something like that. But to point Joe made earlier, we're the only county that does it the way that we described, where we basically take them over. So that's important to note.
Yeah, kind of a standard McHenry County operation, as we try and be good partners, right?
Good stuff.
And I agree with what Mr. Condon had stated. I looked at the list that was provided with regard to where the bridges were good condition, next bad condition. And it's Seneca, Marengo, Chemung, Dunham. Those are typically our rural townships, that have either bridges right now that are not in good shape, or are the 50 to 80. I mean, they're queued up. So, and typically those are the townships that don't get huge amounts of funds. So I appreciate. So in the conversations, public safety is always number one. So thank you, Chief Linneman, for addressing the board. But number two, are we talking to our farming community? Economic development is also extraordinarily important for our considerations, and farming still is still McHenry County's, #1 economic engine driver. Are we talking with regard to that and evaluating that particular situation with our Farm Bureau?
Yes, when we go through our projects or in the preliminary engineering phase and even through phase 2, we're coordinating with the Farm Bureau and local farmers that may have direct impacts to the project. So we do reach out to them. That's how we work towards maybe making these bridges a little bit wider than what the IDOT minimum, bare bones minimum standard is, so that we can accommodate not just the size of the vehicles today, but where they may go in the lifespan of a bridge that could be 50 to 75 years.
So in developing the matrix that was referenced about, you know, how to prioritize what bridges and coming forward with kind of a new program, can we include that information about how many farmers need access besides the public safety and the fire, but how many of our farmers need access to get, you know, materials in and product out, in particularly those townships that are more rural? I think that would be a nice piece of information in any kind of metric that we utilize to determine which bridges we need to really focus in on.
Correct. Access is in there as well as for local farmers and or detouring routes when, like Jim was talking about, the option to close a structure, perhaps if it was a certain, the detour routing is also part of all those equations as we look at different factors.
And are we also talking to our municipal partners, using our shared services committee potentially maybe, and talking to them with regard to the impact that any kind of bridge limitation or closure is going to affect their operations as well?
We don't coordinate directly with a municipality on a county or township structure, but if they are local stakeholders and they're near, we are working with the fire and EMS and others and when it comes through project development and stakeholders. But we don't directly, you know, talk to them about the impacts like you were talking about. So we do coordinate with our municipal partners differently.
Okay. And then for Mr. Condon, is there any effort at a state level that is happening with road commissioners, superintendents to do any kind of advocacy at the state level for additional funds?
So that's a perfect lead to what I was going to come up and comment about.
Give me my $20 later. Thank you.
One of the things that actually I just found out yesterday, because as an engineer, I look at these roads that have, there was one that we were looking at in Hebron Township. There's only one way in. There's a farm on the far side of the structure. And all we would have to do is pull the culverts out and put new culverts in. The cost of the culverts are $150,000 or so, plus or minus, and maybe it's another $50,000 to put it in, okay? But because we're in District 1, we have certain requirements that would require us basically to put a new bridge in. And the road goes through, but you can't go the other way. So you're gonna ask, what about District 1? So the difference between District 1 and District 2 and 3, District 2 and 3 are rural, and they're allowed to replace in kind. In other words, whatever's there, as long as you pull it out and putting something back and you don't change the floodplain profile, you're okay. In District 1, because obviously District 1, well, never mind, I'll keep that to myself. In District 1, you have to look at, in particular that case, you have to look at what the flood profile was before those culverts were originally put in, okay? So you have to match the original channel without a road going across it. And the only way you do that is to build a bridge. So we have an existing road with, 3 culverts, Zeke? With 3 culverts in it, and we could pull them out and put them right back in for a couple $100,000. And that's not, I mean, I don't mean to be, that's not a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But it's not $4 million, which is what the bridge is gonna cost. So when we're talking in District 2 and 3, these are rural areas. If you can show that it doesn't have a negative impact, you can pull those out and put them back in, and you don't have to meet the guidelines that we have to meet here of matching the flood profile before the road was there. Now, what I'm getting at is maybe it's time we start thinking about in these rural areas that we apply that same criteria that they do in District 2 and 3 in District 1 for these rural sections where you can do a profile and a study and show that we're impacting farm fields. We're not impacting municipalities in houses and stuff.
Am I on? Okay. We are working in tandem, because that's where I was going to go too. So who sets those standards that the District 1 has to follow?
District 1 has their own standards outside of all the other districts in the state.
I understand
District 1
that.
is
Who set
the
those?
district itself.
Okay. So the district could also potentially amend those standards for a short period of time or under certain circumstances?
Keyword potential.
Well, potential. I understand. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Sagar?
Thank you, Vice Chair. First, I want to express my sincere gratitude and commendation to the Township Highway Commissioners, because I think you've done a great job of bringing the challenge to focus and addressing a structure that's going to help to prioritize needs and efforts of improvement. So I commend you on that. I thank you for that. And I look forward to our collaborative effort to come up with partnership agreements and opportunities that can move us forward in a more positive direction in the future. I think one of the most important things that we have tried to do as a county is to be an exemplary county. And we have focused on doing the right thing, and I'm grateful for that. I think that that is seen in Springfield and throughout the state, as we are a county who has a very strong fiscal status position, an excellent bond rating compared to so many different counties. We also are known as, my colleague Altoff has indicated, as a county that works together, partners together at all units of government, and I think that that is a great reputation. We want to maintain that reputation, and this is another opportunity for us to uphold that reputation. So I do appreciate the fact that we are the only county, as stated by Joe, in Illinois that treats township bridges as their own, and that's been a 60-year tradition, and I don't think that we should deviate from that. I don't think we should give that up. I think that's part of our reputation and something that we want to continue to uphold. I understand that's a challenge, as everyone knows, and has already been stated, that there's no money anywhere. So it's a matter of finding ways that we can work together in a collaborative fashion to be able to meet the needs, with the trust and with the hope that down the road, federal funds for bridges will come forward in the year 2028. In the meantime, what do we do? First, I really appreciate the conversation with regards to District 1. I think that's important for us to contact District 1, to work collaboratively with the county and the township highway commissioners to forward the need and change the standard for rural areas in District 1. We need to be able to do that. And so I think that that's an effort that we should strongly support and strongly forward. The second thing is that I believe firmly that we need to work in a collaborative fashion with the township highway commissioners as they prioritize those bridges. And the committee that is proposed and is structured to do that, I think, is great, but the question is, are we as a county going to work with them in terms of determining what those priorities are so that we're doing the best that we can with the resources that we have? So the question is, are we going to commit ourselves to that, one? And then secondly, they're going to be requesting funds through the federal and state programs. Are we going to assist in that request process and not just leave them hanging out there to figure out how to do that when we've been doing it all these years? So those are the two questions I have immediately.
And the answer to yes is, to both questions is yes. We, as stated earlier, we do all the bridge inspections for the township. We're going to continue doing that as long as the state allows us to, and till 2028. And on top of that, we will help the townships prioritize their structures. Obviously, they're going to have a role to play in that, but if we can provide technical expertise, we'll be happy to do so. On the assisting with funding, that's something we have done forever, not only with the townships, but with the cities as well. If a city has a funding source they want to go after, we have staff that can help them fill out grant applications, connect them with the right people at IDOT. et cetera. So yes, we will do both of those things.
And regarding the inspection, when I was whispering in Scott's ear, maybe not so subtly with that, the state of Illinois will be taking over all bridge inspections. So that's township, municipalities, and counties, starting in, I believe, 2028. They've already started that process, and that is being done because of federal oversight and requirement.
Well, thank you for those responses. I appreciate it. And it is an ever-evolving situation, and so I think we just need to be abreast of these changes as they move forward. But emphasis upon collaborative effort. It is my sincere hope, in closing, it's my sincere hope that we, as a county, can restore the funding levels of fiscal year 25 with regards to our township bridge program. First, I firmly hope that we can increase that funding level as we go forward to the point that we can, at a minimum, improve 3 bridges on an annual basis to be able to kind of get to the goal of bringing our bridges up to safety status and efficiency. So I'm very committed to that. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think we need to have a statement from this board that agrees that we need to figure out a way to accomplish that funding level. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Member Shorten.
Thank you. Number one, I appreciate the presentation. It helps with the understanding of the entire situation and the history behind it, and I'm grateful for the highway commissioners and their efforts to get together and work collaboratively with us to come to solutions. You know, as I look at this, and not to bring everything back to solar farms, but I was in a mild rage this morning driving into the office and was trying to understand, you know, from an energy standpoint, if you want to build a nuclear power plant in the United States, we're looking at 30 to 40 years. You have modern countries such as Japan that can put one up, I think, within 5, and probably well underneath that. So while we can't solve all the problems here, I think there are things we can push, like we talked about the District 1 solution. If we can find creative ways to drive costs out, that's one path that we need to take. Most of my questions have been answered. One thing that's been sitting in my head, I can think of $2 million in the past 4 years that I voted in favor of engineering for bike paths. And this is maybe a higher level question beyond this, but in terms of looking for funding and how to reallocate funding, are we required when we're doing improvements to county roads to spend money on bike paths?
So are we required to add bike paths to county roads? No, we're not. But these are requests that we receive from residents for safety improvements, right? These county roads are roads that people are using on foot and on bike today without any safe accommodation. And so we get constant requests for certain, you know, areas of the county to add these facilities. And because they're our responsibility, that is something we have been doing. And Joe was whispering that the Vision Zero goal that we've set for ourselves, getting down to 0 fatalities, that's impossible unless we start to address these safety concerns for pedestrians. And I will note that bicycle accommodations, bike paths, sidewalks, oftentimes we get federal grants for those. So those there is a lot of money out there, federal and state, to help offset the cost for those projects.
Understand, and I appreciate that answer. And in the presentation, I saw in the I guess our most active year, we were spending $4.5 million a year, and that goes back to what,
2009? Yeah, Scott's got it up there. 2009, we were levying $4.5 million. In 2020, that went down to 2.3, and then as Scott has mentioned this year, to $20,000.
From a historical perspective, were the $4.5 million in 2009 was that just a commitment to the program as a whole, or were there specific bridges that needed to be replaced at that time? And I know that's a big question.
Both. And that as Mr. Condon touched on before, the goal is to get these bridges ready for construction. So you got to get them in the pipeline. And if we're using federal dollars, that process is 4 to 6 years, 5 years on average. So you need to get the phase 1 done so you can get to the phase 2 so that you can get to phase 3 with that. So the answer again is to both on that, Mr. Shorten.
Okay. And has the drawdown from 4.5 to $20,000 in 2026, historically, was that just driven by a desire by this board to cut costs?
I can't speak to the intention of the board. The desire is to keep the levies low.
Okay.
And as that historically, then the transportation funding is the one that suffered.
Okay. And as the desire to keep the levies low has reduced, also in that time frame, has the commitment over the long term in the state and the federal government to provide funding, has that decreased as well?
Not until recently, as Assistant Director Hennings referenced. It used to be pretty simple, and you went to that. But the fact of the matter is, there's such a great need out there that they are over-programmed, i.e. the number of projects that are in there. And we're seeing in the construction industry huge increases in cost. And those probably aren't going to go away in the near future, so the dollars just don't go as far as they used to.
Right, okay. I believe that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Von Bergen.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I really just want to note my concern of removing assistance to the township bridges. I've always supported our townships and the work that they do to take care of our rural communities. Township road commissioners do a fantastic job with the funds that they have available. These bridges play an important role in economic development, which supports farming, agritourism, and other small business, as well as provides access to the many McHenry County Conservation District areas that residents and visitors enjoy. Many of the bridges that need repair are in District 8, which I represent. While I believe that townships should have some skin in the game when it comes to maintaining their bridges, the rural townships operate on very limited budgets and will likely never have the tax base to fully cover the cost of repairing or replacing these bridges on their own. Many of these townships have budgets in the realm of, $200,000 to $300,000 if they're lucky. So for them to even pave one road mile is challenging enough. And, these districts also have the most road miles to maintain. So without the support, I do worry that some of these bridges may end up being closed in the future and have real impacts on everybody in the township as well as businesses that rely on them every day. I sincerely hope we can look to assist them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Smith.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. And I echo everything Member Von Bergen just said. Being from District 8, it's a very sincere issue there. My question was, though, do we have any plans for scheduling some type of reports coming to the Transportation Department from the Road Commissioners' new committee? Or should we be looking at having a county board, probably somebody from the Transportation Committee as a liaison to their meetings? Is there anything like that in the works? Or I guess I would encourage it if there's not.
Yeah, that has been conversation that's been ongoing at the Transportation Committee, and I would, if I'm misstating something, I'm sure Chairman Kearns will correct me. But that's been the intention all along, to have that collaborative effort and have them part of it. This is where this started also last Transportation Committee, that Mr. Condon gave that same presentation that he gave here, and it was very well received by the Transportation Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Scala, or Member Scala.
You can call me Mr. Scala, it's okay.
That's all right.
I apologize for being late and missing the presentation, or what of it, but I want to thank the opportunity that we have here today. I've been kind of a driving force to try and get this discussion started for quite a while now. And, you know, having the discussion to me is key to not only understanding what the ramifications of decisions are, but also the ramifications of what bridges being shut down are on the community that those bridges are in. You know, I look at this as not necessarily a district level situation, meaning I'm in District 9. I look at it as a complete county and how we as a driving public drive around the county. You know, I just came from the western side, which is why I was late, and I can tell you I probably crossed 10 bridges to get up to here. So, you know, we can't look at it as a microcosm of our own districts. It's truly the county and how people travel. I think this board, by having the presentation today and having the discussions that we're having, is perhaps enlightened with decisions that we've made in the past and how that has impacted where we are currently and then where we're going in the future. Brian's comments about, you know, wanting to fully fund this and make sure that we are supporting, and even Tracy's comments about, you know, the rural bridges and how they don't have the support. It's not that I'm trying to take the support away, but we as a board are making decisions on a budget every single year that is in essence making decisions much more difficult to make on the transportation side of it as to where those monies are going. We collectively as a board have the decision, you know, each and every year when we approve the 5-year plan, where we are choosing to try and spend money. And as Joe has said numerous times, you know, it's, you know, they are putting in projects that are overfunding what is truly the revenue stream for that 5-year plan. But when that 5-year plan comes out every single year and it's modified, we are in essence making decisions to give them the roadmap of where that money is being spent. And for the last, I think it's 3 years, we haven't added any bridges, township bridges to that program. I think it's 3 years.
That's correct, Member Scott.
So, you know, indirectly, we are making decisions without maybe consciously understanding that we're making those decisions, but we are making those decisions. And so, you know, and when we at budget time take money away from the bridge levy because that's what we do to keep property taxes low, again, directly or indirectly, we're making decisions that are impacting what we're having the discussion on today. And so, you know, Carrie's up next and, you know, again, we're going to be faced with financial insight into what's going on. And as we continue to ramp up the budget for next year, knowing that we're already facing $5 million deficit, and where is that coming from and how we're going to deal with that. All these things, you know, again, the pie is only so big. We only get so much revenue, and who eats what slice of pie is kind of yet to be determined. But again, I appreciate the information because again, without information, board members are not able to make an informed decision. And so having the presentation today is, to me, critical as the first step in being informed so that when you do make decisions, you're like, okay, well, now I understand that that's going to have an impact on whatever below. So I want to thank not only the townships for their participation and their input and their openness and willingness to try and look at this formula that we've always used and how we can make it better. And on, you know, staff's point of view, you know, for putting up with me and my, bitching about this every year after year after year. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Collins?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to expand on Mr. Scala's point there. The levy reduction that is shown on the slide is a result of us shifting money around to other parts of the levies to eliminate property tax increases or hold them as low as we possibly could. And those decisions, as Mike said, have a long-term impact. And I think one of the things I would hope that as we go into this budget cycle that we're looking at is not what the impact of the budget is on 2027, but the impact long-term. And I think that is something that we have failed necessarily to do, to understand what the decision today means 4 or 5 years down the road. And you can see from the levy decreases from 2009 to 2020 to 2026, what those decisions have met. And we made a decision on the last budget cycle that is going to impact what we do at this level. And we're stuck with that decision. And that is going to impact, and we knew then, we talked about it, that it was going to impact things like township bridges. It's going to impact things like public health. And these are the decisions that we've set ourselves up for, the difficult decisions we're going to have to make for next year and the years going out. And frankly, there's no bridges budgeted now for the next 3 years. That impact's going to become much greater in the outgoing years because bridges are going to get pushed off, and the cost of fixing those is going to go up more and more and more. So I hope that as we look at this budget cycle coming up, we take those considerations into account, and figure out how we do all this. If we're indeed going to still support bridge work at the township level, how we're going to make that work within the budget constraints we've established for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Van Hoff?
Thank you, Vice Chair. And thank you all for coming here and showing us this. I really wish I could have seen that 6 months ago, although we do know that the decisions, I echo Member Scala and Member Collins' comments, the decisions we make today will affect us for years to come. So thank you for giving us that now, because I know we have some budget talks that are going to be starting pretty soon already. And I just wanted to ask another question regarding something you said earlier, Joe, about in 3 years at 2028, that this will be under state supervision. Is the bridges?
Bridge inspection will
Inspections.
be. Just inspection. So it varies throughout the state currently.
Okay.
And when I say it varies at different levels, whether it's municipality, township, or county. A lot of times the counties do help out and do inspections, not always.
Okay.
And that stuff, but the federal government is looking closer at the state of Illinois program and has found that these inspections have not met to their standards, so the state of Illinois is now required to take it over. They have started that process. District 1 will be in the 4th year, which is 2028. Okay. After 2028, all inspections will be done by the state of Illinois.
So is Illinois being singled out? Is that what I hear you saying?
Potentially.
Yes. Okay. So how do you anticipate, what will this change for us? I know we talk about things like the unfunded mandates and that kind of thing. Could there possibly be items that come up that could cost more? Or what do you anticipate?
It really is who's doing the inspection. We all use the same firms doing the inspection. There is a standard that you try creating. This will actually save us a little money.
Okay.
Because we are one of those counties that does inspections for ours and the township road districts also.
Okay. And did I hear something also about funding changing perhaps in the next 3 years? Scott, I believe you mentioned something like that? What?
Yeah, I had just mentioned that we've been told by IDOT that this federal formula bridge funds, they might start being more available in 2028 and beyond. But from now until 2028, they have nothing available for us. For any new bridge that we want federal funding for, there's nothing available.
And not totally related to this, but as committee members know, and maybe those on long government with the legislative program, we know we watch Washington DC very closely and what is happening nationally. And I have not seen it in any of my professional publications or anything, but did hear it on the radio that there's a new bipartisan bill being considered. It's called the Fridge Bill in Washington DC for transportation. And right now, it's 1.5 billion with a B a year for 6 years to address commuter rail bridges. Wow. And put that in order of perspective, if you know that Ken Kaler, our Metro representative, definitely at the Transportation Committee, we've seen Metro, or the railroads that, or the bridges that Metro has to run over are ancient and have to be replaced.
Yes, and I lived in Hebron for over 20 years, so listening to Mr. Walters still back there, listening to him talk about those bridges brought back such memories, and it's like you take it for granted that there are that many bridges out there. I used to drive across them all the time, but when they're not there, that's when you really miss them. If you have to get a fire engine out there to a farm or something like that. So I really do appreciate, what we do as a county for the township bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kunkel, or Member Kunkel.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I take a little exception to being told this is a failure of this board. I started on this board 3 years ago. In fact, this presentation was one of my very first presentations. And frankly, I was quite alarmed. As a construction person, I'm like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. We got to fix all these bridges. Then you get in here and then you start going through the other waves of stuff we had. We were woefully behind on trucks for McDOT. We were behind on a lot of things based on the pandemic, people's salaries, people's pay. So I do understand that it is a priority. In my own district, literally around the corner from me, we had a bridge fail. IDOT failed us. It closed the bridge off for emergency services for fire trucks. We had a failure. Now, McDOT, to their credit, our township, to their credit, we rallied. They found a tentative short-term solution, and we have fire trucks rolling again. These things, these county expenses that I've learned over this 3 years that come up to us, it's all about prioritization. Everybody likes a bike path, but you don't like the bike path you can't get across the road. We have to prioritize better with the dollars that we have. But this still doesn't mean we can't just keep expanding the dollars to cover more wants. These have to be needs, and sometimes needs present themselves as a bridge failure. I'm all for helping the townships. I want to help the townships. These are communal bridges. We all drive on these bridges. We have to do that. But to say the board failed because we didn't jump on this 3 years ago, that's not accurate. We do a great job here hitting those items that are of most need, for the most part. Do we have fat to trim? We do. Everybody's going to have to trim some fat to make this thing go, and especially to add the layer of the bridges on top of this. Again, took a little exception to that. I saw it. Bridges are definitely a high priority for me. It's something that I think we need to take care of post haste. There are many things that we are doing that maybe are not as chief a concern. Thank you.
Member Kearns?
Well, thank you, and thank you for this presentation and for the road commissioners to participate and Hebron area, Fire Chief Lindeman and Mr. Walters representing the ag community. And this is exactly what we as a committee wanted to do is You know, with our past and draining resources across our county-wide projects, across the entire every department here. More things, more demands put on it with lower levies and less funds and a 21.3% in 4 years increase in CPI and everything, or inflation, not CPI, but inflation. That has brought us to the point where the funds are stretched so badly. You know, even if inflation CPI is 2.4% or 5%, which is I think what they stated yesterday, our annual rate is right now. With our wage increases, 80% of our cost in the county being salaries, we'll never get ahead on this where we're at right now. Because if you can only levy the maximum CPI of around maybe 2.9% plus new growth, we're never going to head. We're backwards every year. So now we have to figure out the hard part. And that's why this is here today before us, not only for this, but what programs do you have to prioritize? Because do you want to fund this? Can we fund this? And a lot of us do support these bridges. We all drive on these bridges. Everybody in the county pretty much drives on some of these bridges at one time or another. And when you start having bridge failures, where I take exception, we weren't singled out. The Fed did not single us out, the state of Illinois. We were singled out because the state of Illinois' failure on us as residents in this entire state. They have failed us in the waste and inappropriate spending. We at this county have done a pretty good job. We're not perfect, but we've done a pretty good job in using our resources. And is there waste? Yeah, there's waste that we can do, but we can fix or try to tighten down on. But when we make our votes on the floor, our votes have consequences. And that's why this is here before us today, is so that we start understanding those votes that we make, what the consequences are for transportation, for the health board, for planning and development. We need to understand that. And that's why I want to thank this presentation, and I'd like to see other presentations. The one thing I really learned out of this about the District 1 and Ms. Altoff, Member Altoff, reached over to me that, yes, we should have a joint law and government and transportation committee meeting, and bring in those District 1 representatives and some of our senators and representatives for the state to discuss this about maybe easing up that regulation for our rural community. That would be huge in this. So if anything comes out of this meeting, that to me is probably the most important thing. I don't know if we're going to gain anything on District 1 and that organization. I don't know if we're going to, you're dealing with the politics of it all. But we got to try. We have to try. So I appreciate everybody's today, and I really appreciate all of the member comments. Whether I agree or disagree with you on these things, it doesn't matter. I appreciate you finally speaking up and taking word on this, because what happens in committees needs to transfer over onto the floor. And our knowledge board-wide, this will help us, this meeting. So thank you for the time. This went way longer than I expected it to, but I appreciate everyone participating.
Thank you. And we'll let you off the hook, but thank you. You guys did a great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.
Sorry.
You thought you were going to be a long time ago, didn't you? But here you are now.
Okay, you ready? Thank you. Good morning. You know, I knew there would be a lot of slides with small numbers. That's why I sent this out to you guys yesterday so you can follow along. You know, it was hard to kind of think about how to whittle this down without losing the point. So that's where we're at with this. So I have been giving these presentations each quarter to Finance and Audit for the past probably year or so. And I thought it would be important to start doing the same types of presentations to the full board. You know, especially as we finished last year's budget discussions, where we finished fiscal 25, you know, and then as we're starting with our new budget talks. So anytime I reference fiscal year 25 actuals, I just want to be clear that the auditors are actually here right now. We're finalizing some things. So everything is unaudited. I don't think that we'll have big changes specifically to the expense and revenue, but just kind of keep that in the back of your head. So what this report is, we talked a lot about during the budget, is just a projection of, you know, past years, 25 budget, 25 actual where we're at right now, the 26, and then some of the assumptions. I purposely didn't change many of the assumptions for the out years, just so we had like a stable base of comparison. I did increase the sales tax revenue projection slightly based on where we finished 25. But again, I wanted to kind of build on what we had been talking about a lot last summer. So I didn't make tons of changes, and how we finished 25 didn't really warrant a lot of changes. So actual 25, we finished with a slightly larger utilization of fund balance than we had been projecting throughout the budget process, and that was driven by two things. We had a lot of discussion last month regarding some of the personnel where they were over budget, and then the second one was in this bottom line here, this operating transfer. So the largest expense in that operating transfer is the cost of the general fund transferring dollars to the benefit fund for the payment of the health insurance premiums. So that's about $12 to $13 million, and then it finished 25 at 20 because the rest, well, the most of the rest of it is the transfer to the capital fund, which again, we had talked a lot about using some of the excess reserves in the general fund to fund the capital. So that's where really, if you look from 23 to 25, you know, it goes from 13 to 20 million. A lot of that is increases in health insurance and then that large transfer for the capital fund. So we finished, like I said, with a utilization of fund balance of 4.7. That will bring our months of reserve, and this is again based on the 26 budget amount, to 5.87. So nothing really surprising or different than what we had talked about during last year's budget, except it's just slightly accelerated. You know, I think we had in our budget discussions, we would get through 2027 being at 5 months. Now we're projected to be at 5 months, below 5 months at the end of 2027. So is there any questions on this particular slide? Then we can get into actuals. Okay. Oh, this is just a chart for people that like the same information. So the blue bars is the reserve. The orange is the 6-month requirement. And again, that's based on the next year's budget. So even if you see here where it kind of dips down, that's because we see a reduction slightly in expenses between 27 and 28. And then this gray line are the expenses. Okay, so fiscal 26. We finished the first quarter at the end of February. This is really just a high-level overview of expenses, looking at just the general fund on its own and then all the other funds combined. it's kind of finding this balance of, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. But, if anyone wants to look at a specific fund, I can provide that information really in any level of details if you just let me know. So we'll focus primarily on the general fund, which drives most of our discussions. So this is the expense categories: original budget, revised budget, which we'll talk a little bit on the next slide about revised budget, actual expenditures, and then encumbrances. And so the way we set up our budget, we don't budget month by month. We have all of the budget in the first month. So we look at a percentage used. So you would think if we're in the first quarter, then we would use 25% of our budget. Any questions on that?
You didn't use 25% of your budget.
Thanks, Joe. So in the contractual line item, this encumbrance line, those are any budget that is being held in a purchase order. And so I think that's important because we know when we're in contracts, and we'll see it specifically in the contractual line item or the commodities, we are locked into a set amount. And so the calculation for this percentage used is revised minus actual minus encumbrance to come up with the remaining. So the largest contracts we have in here are some software contracts, the jail health, and the jail food service. So really what we're doing with an encumbrance is setting aside budget. So that's why you see in some of this non-personnel stuff slightly larger percentages. But what happens as we use those POs and pay the invoices, it just shifts from encumbrance to actual. So personnel, and I know we talked a lot about that last month, is right where we would expect it to be, as we're ending the first quarter. So I think, first quarter, we're okay. Any questions on that or any on the other funds? The other funds are a little bit hard to look just purely at the 25% because a lot of them, especially the large ones, are project funds. So you'll see a lot of variation with, it may look like they're not spending anything and then all of a sudden, maybe a large PO will be issued for a particular project. There's a question.
Member Shorten.
So the 25%, I'm seeing 31% here. I'm not necessarily panicking because some of those are.
So 31% for all the categories together. So what I would focus on, I guess if you're gonna gauge to panic or not, would be, looking at, is this 25%, because like I said, with these encumbrances, that will elevate that number, which would also then elevate this.
Okay.
So looking at the stuff that, expenses that we really anticipate month to month to month versus one-time big hits is driving, some of the changes that are higher than the 25%, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
So for this slide, I just took the top line, the general fund personnel, and broke it down by department. Because again, there was a lot of discussion, specifically last month about, where departments are at, where they're running. And so far, the departments are running right on track. I looked at a few of the larger ones to see where they were at this time last year. And they're running similar. Is that a question?
Member Kearns.
Yes, to me, this is an interesting slide and what I think a comparison would answer some questions for several of us would be how this tracked last year per quarter, where we had the big surprise at the end of the year. How it tracked last year per quarter, the historical quarter. So what we could kind of expect to watch the trend, is it going to happen again? Is it on its way there?
Yes, I think that's a good point because we tend, October and November, specifically for the general fund, does typically tend to see an increase in expenses in those 2 months. So, the challenge is, and we'll see how the next quarter goes, like being at 24% in the first quarter, I think will probably put us on a trend where the general fund personnel is going to be over budget in total and personnel. But I can add that on for next quarter if you would like to kind of give you a frame for some comparison. Okay. Okay, sorry, this one's super tiny. So this one, so we talk a lot about how did the budget change? How did the budget grow? And so this slide really just represents, when I say revised budget, what exactly does that mean? So we have the original budget, that's the amount that is approved by the board in November, sets the base. And then the only way that we can increase budget is through resolution. So we keep that separated out in the revised budget column. And then kind of building on that separately, in January, a resolution was approved to move expense from one budget year to the next in the form of the PO roll. So a lot of our bigger projects, specifically projects in the Division of Transportation, they're multi-year projects. So what they do is that once it's approved, is they have a PO that tracks that project over the years. And so the process of the roll is subtracting it out of, in this case, fiscal 25, and adding it to fiscal 26. So I like to break it out separately on this report so we can see that the budget is increasing from original, but it's not really growing because we see the offsetting reduction in 25. So that's why I like to keep them separate. And so going forward, it'll be kind of out there as separated, but we won't spend a lot of time on it because it's just an ongoing project roll. So that next column is actual changes from other resolutions. So the blue amount for the general fund, the 100,000, I have that detail broken out down here in this section. So we've increased the general fund budget so far this year with resolution outside of the roll by $100,000. And that was the approval and acceptance of 2 different grants. So in the revenue column, if you see revenue identified, that means it was something other than fund balance. So most of the time it's grants. And then the bottom section is that same idea, but for all the other funds combined. So I know we talk a lot, especially as we get through the budget, August, September, about where the budget is growing. So just kind of keeping track of it through the year. And I think it's, it's hard when you see all these resolutions and it's circling back to a little of what how is this going to impact going forward? So.
I got 2 questions here. Member Scala?
Sorry, Carrie, I didn't see a list of questions you wanted me to ask you, so I apologize. Hey, can you go back to your comment on the general fund personnel expense by department? Yes. So you said your comment was based on 24.4 as an average, that because that number is at 24.4, you would anticipate end of year to be over budget.
I guess looking just at today, because we know we talk a lot in personnel about vacancies or things that change. I think the 24.4, that's not far from where we were running last year. So I think that is, my comment is based on that a little bit too. Before last year, really, we finished the year in the general fund like 98% or so of budget. And so, even finishing at 100, I guess is okay. A lot of our areas for variance have been shrinking. And so I think this number reflects in that, but we'll watch it, we'll see. And then there was an extra pay period in January. So we'll see how the second quarter looks.
So we didn't budget, so the situation that we talked about last month with payroll and how things are accounted for, that wasn't dumped into this budget process. So I would agree with your statement that we will end up being over just because of that. That hasn't changed at all.
Correct. Yeah, and you can really see it here on this slide. If you look at the personnel, we're at 68, we finished at 68, we budgeted for 67.5. So a lot of the things we talked about last month and some of the changes we're seeing with hiring and open positions, we didn't take into an account in 26. And so we'll be talking a lot about that as next month when we talk about the budget policy and things we need to change to
have a proper accounting of what
right, or
is,
just, you know, it's changed. And so we have to make sure that our budget is keeping up with how that's changing, how we calculate it.
right. The only other comment that I would make is I don't know how to best do this, but when you have a shift in personnel, so with our new county administrator, there was a shift in personnel from departments that wasn't necessarily budgeted out originally. So, you know, when you have two variances in two departments, that, to me, that is the reason why. But I don't know how you bake that into what you're presenting so that people understand or board members understand that that's what happened. It's not that a specific department is overspending and a specific department is underspending. It's that shift of where those dollars went to.
Yeah, and I think that's looking at this slide specifically.
Correct.
Just kind of going down the list, you know, like there's some ARPA positions in here right now that the general fund pays for the whole year and then reimburses. ARPA reimburses the general fund. So some of these departments where they're at 30%, you know, I know that there's an ARPA position in there, or you know, some of the shifts with the changes of positions, but it's a little difficult. We kind of set the budget and use that and then try to explain variances versus, you mean, are you proposing to like try to change the budget?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I'm just saying, so I have an understanding of why things are happening, but perhaps Joe Citizen out there or Susie Citizen wouldn't. And so, you know, maybe we make a line at the bottom of something like this that goes public to be able to say variances are caused by blah, 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 you know?
Yeah, I can put some notes on it.
Well, just so that people, because otherwise I don't want people to be looking at data, because data can mislead, I guess is the best way to say it. And I don't want people to come to conclusions that shouldn't be drawn because there are, like, just like you said, ARPA people or changes or whatever. And I don't think we should change what we approved. It's just simply, that's the reason why the variances are happening.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
And you know, I've been trying, last year when we, or last month when we had the resolution for the increase personnel, I think someone said that they were surprised, which I kind of took that as, you know, I'm not communicating well. Like when I look at these numbers, you know, I kind of just go down the list and be like, well, that one's okay because of this, or that one is okay because of that, or this one's not okay because they're off track. Doing a better job of communicating that to you and to the public, so I will add notes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sagar?
Thank you, Vice Chair. My question is also centered around this first quarter personnel costs, so I appreciate the opportunity to further that discussion. Can you tell me how many vacancies do we currently have in personnel?
I don't know. Where's Suzanne? She left. I don't have that number. It's in the general fund?
Yes.
It was a fairly short list the last time I saw it. I will get the updated number for you.
I appreciate that, and I'm also interested in what is the dollar value, quote-unquote, relief, if you will. I'm not sure that's the best term, but what is the dollar value relief created by those vacancies in the first quarter?
Okay, I'll get that for you.
Thank you. And I want to ask, are there any positions that administration have determined to be frozen positions?
No. I'm not sure that,
If you're asking the administration or if you're asking, because you said administration has determined, do you want Scott to answer that or do you?
Sure, that's fine.
Go ahead, Scott.
When we had vacancies, we did have discussions with departments about that vacancy, when they're going to be filled, and assessing that need. Because we're a service provider, we do need to have staff fill in those positions. I will tell you, I've done a thoughtful review of those. In some cases, we've held off on positions. In some cases, there are reorganizations that have eliminated positions, and I would just refer to like the Community Development Department and some of the changes that are going forward. So those discussions have been held, and that was the exercise that we've been going through.
Thank you. I'm asking, I guess, in a micro level right now, not a macro level, but a micro level. In the discussions for the first quarter and the reviews, have we frozen any particular positions in the first quarter? Has there been that determination? And further, have there been a determination to eliminate specific positions during the first quarter?
The first question, there have been no specific positions that we said are frozen.
Thank you.
The second question, yes, there have been positions that are eliminated. And I'll just look to the transition in the county administration leadership team. We have transitioned from the Director of Public Affairs to the Deputy County Administrator position. The Director of Public Affairs position is not being filled. We've taken the procurement, or the Director of Procurement and Special Services, eliminated that position, that transferred to the Assistant Administrator position. In the front desk, we had a retirement of Christy this beginning of this month. That position is not being filled. It's being eliminated. So I want to be very clear, it's not a frozen position, that's an elimination of a position.
Right. And I thank you for that. That's the type of thing that I'm interested in on the micro level as we proceed through quarterly reviews of the budget. And specifically, I am interested not only in the number of quote-unquote frozen positions that you all determined, but also the number of positions that you have determined to go ahead and not refill, or another term, eliminate, and what is the relief dollar value of those. I think that information is important for us to have and to be able to communicate to the public. And I want to switch gears now from full-time positions to, well, I guess, excuse me, it is full-time positions, but what is the magnitude of our overtime? Can you talk to me just a little bit about that?
Let me look. We're still working on getting the comp broken out. So for now, that's still included in our regular salaries.
Okay.
But hold on.
So that figure that you provided of current costs, relativity in terms of percentage, that does include the overtime costs, is that correct?
Correct. It includes all personnel expense.
Okay. And so...
well, wait, not FICA and IMRF, because we're in the general fund.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Right. I would be interested in reviewing the magnitude of overtime costs as well.
Okay.
And to quantify that in terms of dollar value cost, please.
So right now, for just pure overtime, which I said, we're still having a lot of issues breaking out the comp.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 17% of the budget through the first quarter for the general fund.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate very, very much this report. I think that we all are in agreement and understand that by far and away, our largest cost in a service entity, which we are as a local unit of government, are our primary cost areas. And so I just think that if we are going to be willing to truly evaluate what our costs are and how we might be able to save in the future and still provide other necessary services, that we have routine reports on that so that we can manage our position. And it will also provide strong information as we budget for next year. So I would be most interested in that enhanced personnel cost report. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. So last, these are the general fund major revenues and how we finished fiscal '25. We're actually right on budget with these. So I don't know this. I don't have too much to say about this unless you guys have questions.
No, I think you're off the hook.
All right.
Anybody have any other questions?
Well, in addition to Dr. Sager's recommendation about the personnel, you know, it's finding the balance between not enough information and too much. So if there's something else that you would like to see on here or not on here, specific funds, just let me know and I can, we can either talk, I can send it to you separately or I can add it for next quarter.
Thank you. That brings us to new business. First item on that agenda, of course, is to look at what we have for the March 18th meeting. Do I have anything that people want to remove from the March 18th meeting to talk about today? Mr. Smith.
13A, please, under new and unfinished business.
Okay. Ms. Von Bergen.
16B 2.1.
16B
2.1.
2.1?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Kunkel.
16B 2.9.
Anyone else have anything they want removed or at least want to discuss today? Not seen any. Mr. Smith, could you talk about 13A?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a parcel of land that the county's owned for a lot of years, and it's time to get rid of it. I agree with that. We have an offer from the neighbor. We have an okay from the state's attorney's office for administrator Scott Hartman to go ahead and do the contract. My concern is we're selling it to the neighbor and whether it's been put out there for the general public. I think it should be out there for general public. It looks maybe a little non-transparent to go through with this the way it's set up right now. So I'd ask on Tuesday night that we'd be sending this back to administration services to look into that a little further. I do see we have some discussion on it in the executive session, I believe. So I'll just leave it at that. On Tuesday night, I'll be asking to send it back to administrative services. Thank you.
Member Scala?
Yeah, we did have a pretty lengthy discussion at finance regarding it. The reason why it's on new and unfinished, the finance committee did vote down the resolution. My concern was we have an appraisal that's 5 years old. I guess I would like to see an updated appraisal. I'm willing to spend the additional $1,200, $1,500 for a new appraisal. And then I agree with Larry that, you know, we were told at committee that there are other people that are interested in the property or have expressed interest in the property. And so I feel that I don't want to hire a broker. I don't want to spend money marketing it. I just feel like we should have an ability to inform the public that the county is interested in selling it And if you're interested in purchasing it, you know, whether we do that by closed bid, you know, we can say to the community that, you know, the new appraisal is for X and that, you know, that's the minimum that the county will accept, and people can submit bids or there's multiple processes you can use to do that. And I appreciate the state's attorney's opinion that we were able to read that talked about why we could do it the way that we could do it, and how that is different than other public entities. But yes, I would agree with Larry, sending this back to committee for further discussion and process would be appropriate.
Thank you. Member Campbell?
So I don't really have anything more to add. They both have really covered everything, but I was one of the members who also said that I would prefer that this be sent back to admin for exactly the reasons that have been stated, for transparency and just to see where we're at.
Thank you. No other comments on that. 16B21. Tracy. Member Bergen.
I'm just, I want to clarify, are we talking about stopping notices to taxpayers that are only receiving an increase due to equalization?
Alex is not here, Alex Benitez, but this was a proposal that was brought forward to Finance and Audit Committee as a cost savings, and the intent would be in the non-quadrennial assessment years, notices of properties that did not have a change would no longer be sent out. And I think the alternative would be we would put all the information on the website. We can work with what the property tax bill is on the treasurer's website to include information, but it can be available electronically. And this would just avoid the certified mail that McHenry County is not mandated to do, but customarily would do. Now, in the years of quadrennial assessments that would continue, we would have to send everything out, but it's only for those that we're not mandated to send out, we're no longer going to send out. There was a resolution that was passed many years ago, and this resolution is rescinding that said we are going to do this. We're going to provide this level of service. But when we look at the cost of postage, when we look at the cost of certified mail, and we look at ideas that save costs, and as a county, this is one of the ideas that was brought to Finance and Audit Committee. They deliberated and they moved forward this resolution. Chair Scala, if you have your light on, if you have anything further to add?
Yeah, this was, I mean, besides everything Scott just talked about, you know, we did talk about this at Finance several years ago, and at the time, there wasn't really a good mechanism to inform the public or have the public informed. But now with what the treasurer has done with the tax bills, we feel like that has changed the landscape of which people can still gather the information they're looking for. And truly, if it's just the equalization that is changing and their values haven't changed, then, you know, we just feel like it's a waste of money to be continuing to send stuff out when they have another avenue by which they can gather the same exact information. So I didn't support it back then because my concern was, you know, making sure that all the property owners were notified properly. But now with new mechanisms in place, I feel like this is a cost savings that is very beneficial to the county and quite honestly saves time also, so.
Well, I do appreciate the departments that are looking to reduce their budgets, but is there I guess, are we going to be notifying people that they are not going to be receiving their notices?
Yeah, we're going to leverage our social media
Okay.
We have a variety of different mechanisms, but we'll get that word out to say that the information is available and they'll be able to find it if they choose to look.
Okay. What about maybe, that when I go to renew my license plates, the Secretary of State gives me an option to get my notice via email or some other method. Is that something, we could do to further reduce money?
Well, I think in this case, you're going to add an additional burden to track all those who want to receive it and who would not, maintaining a list of up-to-date email addresses. I think that would kind of create an additional bit of work that we're trying to remove. I think if it's available and we can get the word out and broadcast it through we have some fantastic social media presence, as well as our various communications, our Thrive newsletter, and so on and so forth. I would recommend that would be the way to go rather than provide like an opt-in for electronic notice, because now you're going to create additional layer of that notice that we'd have to maintain every year. And I think the intent is we're trying to reduce the work down to what's mandatory versus non-mandatory.
Okay, yeah, I think basically you just have to check a box on, the renewal. So I don't know if that was something you could add to the treasurer's site, and there really wouldn't, I think, need to be a whole lot of extra manpower, but, just a thought, but that was all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Next item, Member Kunkel, 16B29.
Yes, I just wanted to personally thank all of those who serve on the Health Board. Their intellect and their community service is greatly, greatly appreciated. That being said, this is that old axiom, it's not you, it's me. Today, this stipend is paid for via a grant that we could use in other avenues. And also that grant is finite, which means this stipend comes back to the levy. And I realize it's very small. And I realize you guys do a great community service. I appreciate all that. However, it is a service. And a long time ago, we had a community service that was basically put up, a stipend that was put up for legislatures. They were having trouble getting to meet a quorum in the mornings, so they decided to take a stipend, just a few dollars per legislator, a couple of bucks per legislator, to get them in the mornings. They started serving coffee and pastries to bring them in. As of 2019, which is the last time our government tracked it, that stipend has grown to $30 million. 30 million bucks was a pastry stipend to get these people to come and present a quorum. I always fear not what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing, but once the politics and once the bureaucracy gets involved in the money, then the money starts to track and grow. And make no mistakes, everyone here knows this is a grant today. This is a levy item tomorrow, yet again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Altoff?
Let me clarify, it actually wouldn't be a levy item. This is a part of the public health budget. If you'll remember, we basically give them a line item and they determine where those expenditures go. They present that to us. And number two, this is actually regulated by Illinois state statute. There is a cap. They can't go above a certain amount of money. We've stayed even below that with this first go-round. And I think it's before us, being your liaison to that board, the discussion, it came before us because we received a grant this year that was unanticipated in 2026 budget. So it gave us a little bit of maneuverability to have additional funds without affecting the bottom line of the budget that you saw when we passed it. Going forward, it will be up to this board to determine how to fund any stipend, and we will see that at that particular time. Also want to note that I believe, and I'm looking at, we have in front of us the chairman of the Board of Health, Joe Clark, the vice chair, Kyle Margison, and we also have our director of public health, Melissa, who will address. But I believe we determined that the overall annual cost, if in fact everyone took it, which I'm going to tell you some people will not, And of course, they don't allow, you read that in the resolution, they don't allow the liaison to collect any of those monies. So it's 11 individuals. But I believe we said it would be somewhere around 15,000 per year. I'm looking at Scott and I'm looking at Melissa. Is that not correct?
It's actually probably going to be less than that based on attendance.
I just, again, more information just so that you're aware of it. It is truly, an accountant would tell you it's an immaterial amount of money, and I don't disagree with the concerns that Member Kunkel has. I mean, I note that, but again, state statute prohibits this to grow. So it is limited, and we use the Zoning Board of Appeals, who we do reimburse as kind of a measure with regard to what the members receive and what the chairman receives, so that we did use a template we already have in place at the county. These individuals who serve, as Mr. Kunkel made comment, are licensed professionals in most cases, and the time that they now give is substantially more because we're dealing with a lot more issues today. We've got more hearings with people who are hoarding, with people who have issues with animals, et cetera. So people are traveling a lot more, and $100 a month basically will cover that ever-increasing cost of gasoline to attend meetings. So just keep that in mind as you consider this going forward. And thank you to Ms. Von Bergen for always allowing me to have access to this. Thank you.
I have no other lights lit up and no other comments on any of the issues on Wednesday night's board meeting. Thank you. Administrator's report is next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I am very pleased to present to you my first County Administrator's Quarterly Report. There's a lot of wonderful information in here from our departments. I want to thank all of our department heads and elected officials for contributing to this report and keeping you up to date on the very noteworthy and important items coming from their offices and a lot of the things that are happening. So thank you for this. And, secondly, I'm even more pleased to present to you the first of, with a companion report to the County Administrator report, but the first efficiency and value report. We've been talking about this for a couple months of something that we're working on. This is a document we're going to continue to compile and build on, and we want to capture a lot of this, the great work that your department and elected officers do day in and day out to find efficiencies, to reduce costs, to do reorganizations, to look at what they do and how they can do it better, because it is something that doesn't happen once in a while. This is what your organization does. This is what they live for. We talk about it. And the intent of this report is really just to make that known. Is to celebrate that, is to showcase that. So hopefully you'll read through this and you'll see over some of the great work that's been done over the years. And as they continue to add things and implement new changes, we want to keep this, keep you up to date on what we're doing. You know, there's thousands and thousands, in fact, millions of dollars over the years that are saved, that are adjusted, that are repurposed because of the good work that your departments and offices do. So very excited about that, and I look forward to continuing to build upon that efficiency report. A couple other items to just to report on. I'm going to find my notes here. I think Chairman or Vice Chair Guatemala reminded everybody that the meeting next week will be Wednesday, March 18th. Just want to report, Alicia was here at the very beginning of the meeting, but she had to excuse herself. She is actually representing McHenry County at the CMAP policy meeting, which is ongoing right now. It's a virtual meeting, but it's important that McHenry County maintain its presence and attendance at those meetings. So she's filling in because we needed somebody there, and she's up for the job. So with that, if you have any questions on these reports that distribute, please feel free to contact me.
Member Altoff?
I'm too talky this morning, I apologize. It just occurred to me when we were talking about reviewing kind of where we are from a budget perspective, as we move forward in that dips to only a 4-month reserve, what effect does that have on our ability to borrow, et cetera? Is that a big issue? I mean, I know we've maintained a really high rating over the course of the years. Is there something that we need to be aware of?
you know, also, when we had the re-rating or with Moody's, and they reaffirmed the AAA bond rating, they did make a point about talking about the county's healthy fund balances. But it was also a cautionary tale. They said if you drop down, you know, that could put that AAA bond rating into jeopardy. So you keep that in mind.
They had a liquidity ratio, and we're currently at the bottom of that. I think it was 34%, which is the low end for AAA. So I think that was kind of the caution, you know, as we move forward. Yeah.
Dr. Sager?
Thank you, Vice Chair. First off, we have representatives here from the McHenry County Conservation District, and you know, the budget is on the agenda for Tuesday night's meeting. I hope that you take the fact that nobody pulled that for conversation right now is an indication of strong support and appreciation for the work that you and the board does serving our larger community in terms of the Conservation District. So we just want to thank you for being here today, and thank you truly for the exceptional presence that the Conservation District has within the county at large and the services and opportunities provided. So thank you for that. The second thing I want to just mention is, Scott, thank you for the report, first quarterly report. We are grateful for that. A lot of work within that went into it, and I appreciate it, and all the department heads and electeds that contributed to that report. But I also want to say that we have in front of us the McHenry County Efficiency and Value Report. And this is a very important document, I think, and is going to help us, or should help us, in our communications with constituencies with regards to the efforts that are being made routinely to make sure that we are controlling costs. And so this report, which has been put together, is a very useful document for us, and I think it should be publicly acknowledged that this is something that is occurring on a routine basis by our staff. So I want to say thank you for that. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Do we have executive session?
We do.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve going into executive session? For the purpose of the 4 items that are listed on 11 on our agenda, setting prices, litigation, settlement of claims, and meeting minutes.
Are appropriate exemptions under the Illinois Open Meetings Act, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. I would make that motion.
Is there a second by Mr. Shorten? All right, all those in favor say, oh no, we got to do roll call. Never mind. Do I have somebody?
We're not done.
Kathy, can you call roll?
Althoff. Present.
No, yes is
Yes.
Yes.
And you're going into executive session.
Vice Chair Gaudemeyer.
Yes.
Reno. Hendricks. Kaminsky.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Krieger.
We have a quorum.
Kunkel. Sager.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Scala.
Yes.
Smith. Sullivan. Thomas.
Yes.
Van Hoff.
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
And Member Smith.
12, we have a quorum. 12 yeses, okay, so sorry, okay. I have to call roll again. Just say yes, Pam.
Campbell. Yes. Collins. Guttemaller.
Yes.
Reno. Hendricks. Kaminsky.
Yes.
Kearns. Yes. Reader. Kunkel. Sager.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Scala. Smith.
Yes.
Sullivan. Thomas.
Yes.
Van Hoff. Yes. Von Bergen. Yes.
Make a motion to.
We have a quorum. Make a motion to adjourn by Mr. Scala. Seconded by Altoff. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.